And if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself during the presentation, but we'll certainly have Q&A during the presentation, and you can also put questions in the chat. Ben and Stacy are going to help me monitor the chat and look for questions, but feel free to or raise your hand using the reactions. I'll do that right now. Actually, they used to allow you to raise your hand. I don't see that anymore. I can do a thumbs up. Maybe that's in the webinar piece, but okay. Let me share my screen and we'll get started. So thank you all for joining us. I'm Keith Wingy, the Community Development Director for Missouri Main Street. We have Ben White and Stacy Cox with us also from Missouri Main Street to help me monitor chat and things like that. Again, feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll also have a place at the end to ask questions. You can unmute and ask questions at the end also. But we want to keep this as interactive as we can virtually. This is about how to fill out the annual self-assessment, the Main Street America and the Missouri Main Street self-assessment document that we do every year. Just want to let you guys know we're ahead of the curve nationwide with the assessments. A lot of our counterparts in other states are just getting started with this, but we adopted them early and have been utilizing them. So some of you who have done this before, this will look very familiar. There are going to be some nuances to it this year just because National Main Street is creating an online platform for it to be submitted, which is going to be awesome. So we don't have to worry about PDFs and saving and putting them in Dropboxes or Google Drives. Hopefully all that's going to go away. We actually participated here in Missouri. We had 5 Main Street communities participate in beta testing for the platform. And so they did that over the past month. And now they're making any of those improvements, changes, fixing those bugs. And it should be available mid-December. But that's why we sent you all the paper copies right now to use to start the process, start discussing it as a board, and start doing that scoring. So when the platform becomes available, it's just easy to then enter it into that platform. And there will be training on the platform once it becomes available. But for those of you that participated, we have actually a couple on the call. Danelle participated in the beta testing, and all the feedback we've gotten so far is that it was pretty easy to navigate and work with. So there used to be 10 accreditation standards or 10 standards that were used by National Main Street for their annual assessments. And they've kind of refined them a bit and put those together into 6 standards that really make more sense. And again, Main Streets that have been doing this for 10 years or more will tell you that they like the newer, more abbreviated 6 standards compared to what there used to be. And it's not so much just checking boxes, it's more of demonstrating the impact of the Main Street program. And so we're not going to get into those things, but I just wanted to share with you that this has been a process going on. Actually, Galus has almost 10 years of making these refinements and getting all states using the same standards. And so we're very happy about that. So why accreditation? Why do we strive for being accredited? Accreditation is kind of a badge of honor. I shouldn't say kind of. Accreditation is a badge of honor for our Main Street programs. It demonstrates that they are having great impact within their downtown district. It demonstrates that they're following the principles of Main Street that have been laid out, and the 40 years of expertise that Main Street has behind it. And so it's giving them their kudos for being a high functioning, impactful Main Street program. And I have to say that in Excelsior Springs, when I was the Main Street director, we weren't as concerned about accreditation or moving up in the tier system until we learned that by going through this assessment process, it made us a better Main Street program. It helped us look at our areas of improvement, or areas that maybe we struggled with, and how could we improve. And if you don't know what you don't know, you can't work on it, you can't fix it. And so again, these standards come out of 40 years of experience with Main Street across the country. And so we have this tier system in Missouri, as most of you are aware. The largest bulk of our Main Street programs are in that affiliate tier. Those are our newer Main Street programs that haven't quite gotten to a director yet, but have the organization, are working with the Main Street 4-point approach and wanting to make a difference within their downtown district, within their community. Associate Main Street programs and communities are getting close to accreditation. They're working their way up. They're gaining that stronger foundation, making those partnerships, increasing their funding, and being a little more strategic and impactful in what they're doing. So almost there. And then we have 8 accredited Main Street programs in Missouri: Cape Girardeau, Chillicothe, Excelsior Springs. Joplin is our newest accredited program: Lee Summit, Liberty, Warrensburg, and Washington. And 3 of those have won Great American Main Street Award winners, being recognized nationwide for the work that they've done, and Chillicothe being a semifinalist in that process. So we do these self-assessments in all 3 tiers in Missouri, while the top tier accredited communities are using these assessments to maintain their accreditation. Associates and affiliates are learning through the process, looking for those areas of opportunities that they can improve on to be more impactful in their downtown district, in their community. So realizing that the associates and affiliates are not looking at this to go through and to be accredited. They're using it as a tool to help you in your Main Street journey. And so these are what the documents look like. If you were an accredited or associate tiered program, you got the document on the left. If you were an affiliate tiered community or a community empowerment grant, a CEG community that's getting ready to graduate, you got the document on the right. And the difference between the two is in the documentation that's required as part of the self-assessment. The affiliates have less documentation to follow through with. Accrediteds and associates, and we'll go through and show you this. There's more documentation. It's the exact same documentation as it was last year. And so Main Street directors who have gone through this before know that they create these files, create and collect this information throughout the year is the best way to do this. We've got Jamie coming in there. And the thing that I want to say as you open up that document is there's a section there that says start here. Really pay attention to the directions. There's a lot of information, as those of you who have opened these forms before. Oh, and I should mention, Ben popped those forms in the chat if for some reason you didn't get it. We did email it out to all of our Main Street communities in the last week, but they are in the chat if for some reason you haven't seen the document or need a copy of it. We popped those in the chat. But follow the directions. There's a lot of important information in here. Again, as you open those documents and you see that it is multiple pages, 20-some pages, a lot of it has to do with the instructions on how to fill out the document. So please pay attention. And we're going to go through some of the important stuff here. So this is what the start here looks like for the accrediteds and the associates. Basically saying that this is the format. There's going to be an online platform. The thing I want to remind everybody is that this is a review of the Main Street program's work in 2023. We call this the 2024 assessment, but it's for the work of 2023 because accreditation and all those designations come out in 2024. The affiliates, this is what your first page is going to look like with your start here. And this is saying that we realize and understand that you're not going for accreditation. You're not ready for that yet, but we know that you're building capacity. You're growing your partners and increasing your impact. So think about it from that perspective, is that how can we learn from this? In order to be accredited, you have to have scores of 3 and above as we get into the scoring piece of it. But realize as affiliates, your scores are going to be in the 1s, 2s, and 3s. And that's fine. We know that. We expect that. If we got an assessment form back and it had all 4s and 5s from an affiliate, we're going to wonder about, okay, did you really pay attention and evaluate yourselves? Because we know you're growing, you're still learning, and we understand that. And we'll talk in a little bit too about how to use this afterwards. If you have any questions, or let's say that you are an affiliate and you feel that you're ready for accreditation, reach out to me. We need to have that discussion before you process what's going on. And then Ben just popped in the chat a YouTube series that National Main Street put together. If you want to dive into this a little bit more about each of the standards and learn more about it, they have put together a YouTube page. It's only available through this link, I'll tell you, because it's only available to members of Main Street America, and understanding that not all of our affiliate tiered communities are members, but we pulled the link out so anybody can use it. So feel free to take advantage of that if you need to. The deadline to submit these materials is December 31st. It's always somewhere around the end of the year. We had a weird year 2 years ago, just because of when the standards were being launched nationwide. But ours is typically at the end of the year, because we're going to do on-site assessments in January and February. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But because of that online platform that National Main Street is developing, it is supposed to be released the middle of December. And if they stay on target, that's great. Our December 31st deadline should work for everybody, because you're going to use this information and start working on it beforehand. And you should just be able to enter it into the platform once you're done. But if for some reason that online platform is delayed a bit, we have a little bit of leeway that we can go into January with a deadline, but I would be working towards a December 31st deadline if I were you. The assessment's divided into 2 sections. I actually put these in the wrong order. The documentation pages are first, and that's listing what kind of documentation we are requiring to support your scoring for each of those sections. And I'll show you that in just a second. And then the second half of the assessment are actually the each of the standards and the indicators and explanation about those. And so first part's documentation, second part is the actual scoring. And then this bottom section, who should fill out the assessment? This should be a group activity. It should be your board of directors. If you have a staff person, should be the staff person filling this out. You might want to include your committee chairs if they're not board members. But the best practice for this from both National Main Street and from us at Missouri Main Street is to have your board members or have your leadership fill this out, scoring, based upon their viewpoint, and then come back together at a board meeting or a special meeting and everybody report on what scores they came up with, and then determine as a group what score you're going to submit as an organization. Okay, so you're only going to submit one score to us, and that's then the score is determined by that group, by the board of directors. Also use that time to evaluate, what are areas that we need to improve on, and kind of note those as you're planning for 2024 and things to look at. And if you have any questions about any of that, please let us know. We'll help you out. Okay, so the next page then talks about the actual standards based upon that 40 years of experience. That 1 through 6 there are the standards that National Main Street that you're going to be evaluating yourself on, that are put together by National Main Street. The upper right-hand corner is the grading for that. So as you go through the indicators, you're going to give yourself a score. 1 is being the score of, or the description of being, we haven't even addressed that. We haven't been working on that. We're not doing it. That's a 1. It's perfectly all right. We understand that. A 2 is minimal work, but we need to put some more effort towards it. Number 3 means that we meet the standard, evidence of satisfactory progress. We meet it. 4 is we've had some success in this area, or we're doing a good job. And then 5 is that we're outstanding, and other programs could learn from us in this category because we're doing so well with it. We're really hitting it out of the ballpark, to use a baseball analogy. So you're going to score yourself, and I'll get to that page here in just a second. And then the bottom right of the screen are the baseline requirements. And those are things that you must have to be an accredited Main Street program. So again, for those of you that are associate or affiliates, you may say yes to some of these. These are just yes, no answers. You may say yes to some of these and no to others. That's, again, that's expected. Number 6 here is, we have demonstrated support from the municipality in leadership participation, funding, in-kind, and philosophical support. So you may be a Main Street program that you don't receive any funding from your city. So you would have to answer that as a no. We understand that. We get that. Now that then identifies an area that maybe we can help you with as kind of a wrap up after the assessment. Where can we tap into Missouri Main Street or other resources to help us improve in that area? So baseline requirements are required for accreditation. But realizing, again, associates and affiliates, you're probably going to have a couple no's there. If you don't have a staff person, that's number 2. If you do not have a staff person, you're an all-volunteer Main Street program, your answer is going to be no there. And so, again, you're not ready for accreditation yet, and we understand that. All right, so then this next page is actually put together by National Main Street as part of the form. Again, kind of saying the same thing that I just said in the 2 slides before, is that the self-assessment part should be done as a group activity, getting others involved. And then the second part of this is realizing that there is some documentation. The quarterly reports that you guys are required to submit, make sure you're caught up on those. If you're not, that needs to be part of this process, because that's an evaluation tool that we use. And then also that documentation page that has showing some additional documentation related to some of the standards. So this is what that documentation section looks like. We just took it and took out all the scoring piece and just left in the categories. So it follows the scoring here. This is what the actual scoring pages will look like, where you've got each standard, a description of that standard, focus areas, and then key indicators. And then one is partnership and collaboration, and that's where you're going to score yourself. That's what we have here in this documentation page. So as documentation for the partnerships and collaboration is a list of your board of directors denoting their affiliations. What are their names? What positions do they hold? And then are they a property owner, a business owner, a resident? Are they a city official? Those sorts of things. So that's the documentation for that. Okay. And then it just follows through for each of the standards. We're not going to go through all of the standards today, just because this webinar is to show you how to do the accreditation document. If you have questions about the standards, reach out to Ben and I, and we'll share our information at the end. So then we get into the scoring part, and that's what I showed you just a second ago. The rest of the documents are then that scoring piece, standard by standard, indicator by indicator. And so utilizing, again, reading the descriptions, how do we score ourselves? And then the PDF that you're given, the form that you're given to use, it automatically figures out the averages and puts those things in there. So you can look for those as you're putting in scores. You'll see that it's starting to average for you. And then it's going to bring all of the scores together on this last page. And I just wanted to define, I think National is working on this with the online platform, but we had a lot of questions about what is LP, CP, and MSA. LP is local programming, so that's where your scores are going to go in that LP column. Coordinating program, that's us, that's Missouri Main Street or the state program. Our scores, we're going to score you also. And so we're going to put our scores in that column. And then MSA is Main Street America. That's where they're going to score your program. And then on the PDF, there's a signature page on the online platform. There will be a place to signature or initial that who filled this out and who submitted it. Okay, so that's the forms, that's the process to go through. Now let's just talk about kind of the whole assessment piece of this that's done annually. So there always will be a self-assessment with our Main Street programs here in Missouri. It's a good time to reflect. It's a good time as a board of directors to look at areas that we're doing great on. Let's capitalize on those, or areas that maybe we need to refocus our efforts. And these are, as I said earlier, completed by our top 3 tiers, except for our newer community empowerment folks and our St. Louis Main Streets. We haven't integrated those into the system yet. So every other year, there are on-site assessments done for our accredited and our associate Main Street programs. They get an on-site assessment. So affiliates, you don't get an on-site assessment with National Main Street, may get one with Missouri Main Street if that's something that you're looking for, or you're working your way up into the tier system and you'd like to have kind of a courtesy visit by National Main Street. Again, I'll tell you my experience in Excelsior Springs. It was very helpful to have National Main Street come in and meet with our board of directors, meet with our committees, meet with our city officials, and share the good things that we as a Main Street program are doing, but then also sharing best practices of other Main Street programs across the country that we can use within our community. It was very, very helpful. It really became a good process. Again, I was not an early believer in assessments, and quickly learned how powerful they are when you're trying to make your program better. So this is our schedule for 2024 of those communities that are getting on-site assessments. So Sedalia is one of our affiliates that will be going through an on-site assessment with Main Street America. Independence is an associate tiered community, and they're going for accreditation. They, as an organization, board of directors, said we'd like to go for accreditation. And then Liberty and Warrensburg are already accredited, so this is to maintain their accreditation. Clinton is an associate Main Street program, so they're going to learn from National Main Street. And then Washington and Cape Girardeau are both accredited, so they're maintaining their accreditation status. And then Jackson just moved up to the associate tier, so this is to help them continue in their journey. And so these are all-day visits. We meet with the director if there is one. We meet with the board of directors. We meet with the committees. We meet with the city. Usually have time to walk around and talk to some of the businesses also. And then culminates with a presentation in late afternoon, early evening of the findings, recommendations, areas that they're doing great on, and then what their status will be for 2024. The other thing is that we use these annual assessments to help us guide upcoming training and programming. So if we go through the, we're going to review all of these assessments. There's going to be 40 some that Ben and I are going to have to review. We're going to look for areas that, we're finding a theme. There are many organizations, that need, capacity building or need fundraising support or, need that help with getting that city financial support. That's going to help us guide programming, training, sessions at the state conference, sessions at workshops. And then also all of you on this call receive a free organizational service from us here at Missouri Main Street. Every year, it's part of your annual agreement. You get a free organizational visit from us. And so as you're filling out this assessment, if you find there's an area that you really need some additional support, make that your organizational visit with us. Ben and I will come in and we'll do training on that. We'll help you understand it. We'll help you do better, bring you some best practices, bring you some other resources, hopefully, in that area. So just remember that you've got that service. You just have to request it. And then last here is our timeline. The documents were shared November 10th and the 17th. And we also popped it in the chat there if you didn't get it. Doing the webinar today to talk about the process. The online platform will be available sometime mid-December. And then the assessments are due December 31st. So we're going to open it up to questions. I'll leave that up on the screen just for a few minutes, but then I will unshare just so we can see everybody's faces. But any questions, pop those in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and raise your hand, we'll go through those questions. Anybody have questions? Actually, I'm going to pick on Danelle real quick because she did some of the beta testing with the online platform with National. What were your thoughts, Danelle?
Just like every other prior year, I like that was the same as all the prior years. So that's helpful in that part, in the fact that it's all going to be online. That we can upload it right then and there, as you said in the beginning.
Yeah. Because there's been times that
user-friendly.
we've missed documents or, somebody forgot to, or didn't, because it was bigger files, we didn't get them. And so this will also help prevent that. Yep. Any questions? Some of you are newer directors or newer board members, feel free to reach out to Ben and I. I typically handle the assessments for accredited and associate, and Ben handles the affiliates, but you can reach out to either one of us. Julie, did you have a question? Julie unmuted herself, but I'm not sure if she had a question or not. And if you are talking, Julie, we can't hear you for some reason. Any questions? Anything?
I have a question on the city. When you're talking about getting funding from the city,
Mhm.
do facade grants count, or is it like actual staff, like, for payroll and, that kind of funding? Is it either kind of funding, just working
Yeah,
with?
great question, Cheyenne. We like it both ways. A lot of times, the city funding helps cover some of the administrative costs of a Main Street program because, it's easier to fundraise for a project or an initiative than it is to fundraise for a salaried position or, to keep the lights on sort of thing. But there is a section in each of those where you can write a comment. And so you can say, yes, our financial contribution from the city is through a facade grant program, which the Main Street program manages. Perfectly, justify or explain what you're putting in there. And you could even say, we're working on, enhancing that contract, that it covers some of our administrative costs as a Main Street program. Yep. Good point. Yeah, I didn't mention that there are places to put notes as you're filling out the report, to say, hey, we really made a big stride this year. We got X, Y, and Z accomplished. And here's an explanation of that. Or, we're really struggling with this. And so this is something that the board is going to be working on over the next year. Explain those things. We want to hear as much as we can. Again, it's a form and there will be some documentation, but there's an opportunity for you to share comments in each of those indicators. Anybody else? Do that long Zoom pause. Just let anybody unmute themselves if they need to. All right, well, we will let you go then, and we will share this recording with you via email, but then we'll also post it on our YouTube page for anybody to go and look at. And again, Ben and I are here to help. If you have questions, you're stumbling upon something, you just need to talk through it, reach out to us and we'll help you. All right, everybody, have a great Thanksgiving. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.